Quick video on how to identify your cams and the differences in them, because you hear that people say, oh, the E cams are different from the S and the SM cams. That's right. The E cams are bigger. They're more aggressive on the engine, how it functions. But what does that actually mean? Okay, so if we examine a set of cams here from an S and an SM, the way to identify them is to look right here on this black circle, and you see it has the letter D. Okay, that's your intake cam for an S and an SM model DRZ. Your exhaust cam, the stamp on it is E. So D, E is your S and your SM cams. Okay, now let's put them to one side and let's have a look at a set of cams from an E. They say the letter A there, and that's the intake is A. The exhaust cam says B on it. So two different sets of cams, two different bikes. What's the difference and what's the effects that they have on the engine? So if we measure the exhaust cam on the S and SM, the actual length of the actual cam, 35.53 millimeters. And if we compare it to the exhaust cam on the E cams, 36.94 millimeters. Hardly noticeable to the eye, but the E cams are bigger than the S cams. Moving across to the intake cams, let's put them to one side, the exhaust cams. We're going to measure the intake cam on the S and the SM. 36.33 millimeters. Let's measure the E intake cam. 36.70 millimeters. So there you have it. So when I'm building engines and I can build them to suit, you know, they're all Frankensteins. I'm going to be putting in the E cams, because you hear words like, oh, I'm going to get some hot cams, stage 1, stage 2. What that refers to is bigger cams. Not bigger than the E, but bigger than the S. Because what you'll also see people saying is, just put a set of E cams in them. They're just as good as the hot cams. And that's true. Now, I've built many a DRZ, S and SM, E. The SMs are the same engines as the S's, they come with the same parts, and the E's are more aggressive. Okay, I built an E not so long back. It is over here in my garage, and it is coming to the ABR with us, and I will tell you the differences. It is a lot more aggressive than my S and my SM variants. Both built with the same flat side carbs, with the high jets in and everything like that. So it's not the jet, it's not the carb, they're all the same. But I noticed a massive difference in the cams that I was using. So if you're doing a rebuild on an S or an SM and you can get the opportunity to get a different set of cams, remember D, stamp and E are your bog standard S and SM cams. and A and B stamp are your E cams. What it actually does is, when the cams are bigger, like that is, on the intake port, on the valves on the head, it actually holds them open slightly longer. So if I just have a quick look over here and just, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about your intake cams and your exhaust cams control these. They push them down. So the longer or the more movement that is actuated on these creates more openness for better performance. Slightly. We're not talking hundreds of cc's or anything like that, but there is a difference. So I just wanted to explain to you the difference in the cams, the difference in the slight sizes of the cams, and the fact that they're all stamped different here for what they actually are and what bike they refer to. So if you take your rocker cover off and you have a quick look at, inside the stamping there, if you've picked up a second-hand bike and it's had work done to it before, you're not going to know what you've got, guys. Okay, so this is where this comes in. Have a look, see what you've got. You may have had somebody with a bit of knowledge behind them before, and he's took that standard DRZ and he's managed to get his hands on a set of E-cams, which are just as good as a set of hot cams, stage 1 and stage 2, and added them into the mix of his engine. But take your rocker cover off, that's only 3 bolts, right, and have a look what it says on the end here, whether it's D and E or A and B. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care. Bye bye.